One. Yeah, Lindsay.
So what would we label the test statistic?
Chi-squared. Well, big X squared.
Yeah.
Greek letter X. Chi. Fair enough?
Do you want us to write? You write P now. Do you want us to say P again? I don't know.
Coolio? Do you need L3 over here? Not for the exam next week. L3 helps you in reality and identify differences, but not for next week. That's what the TI did. The TI created that to help you calculate. Let's do the next one.
Yeah, let's do that.
T-test. You guys have decided that this is a t-test because you have before and after. Before and after. Beautiful. So, we are going to test some hypotheses. What hypotheses are we going to test? That if we got higher scores after the test than before?
Oh, better attitudes.
Better attitudes, which are tied to higher scores.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the null hypothesis is what? They didn't change at all. No change in attitude. No change in attitude. If you like the symbols on this one, that would just mean I've been calling it D equals 0. I've been calling it mu D equals 0 just because that gives you the implication that it's a matched pair. There's a difference you're looking at. Now here's the catch. H1 is that there is improvement, right?
Yeah.
There's improved attitudes. The kick is some of you are going to do mu greater than 0 and some of you are going to do mu less than 0. And it doesn't matter as long as you know how you subtracted your data. I put a little note over there on the sideboard about the t-test match pair. You have to put your data in L2 and L1 and subtract it in L3. I put L3 equals L2 minus L1. You can also do L1 minus L2. And depending on how and I talked to two different people about this, and each person did it a different way. So let's look at why that changes, okay? Go ahead, Susie.
Could you say like mu B is less than mu A?
Well, that would imply two different averages. There aren't two different averages. There's one average. That's what makes this one t-test and not two t-tests. There's only one average, the average difference between the two measurements. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you won't get a result running it the other way. I am telling you won't get the right result. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Let's start by putting our data. So, L1 and L2 are now replaced with these scores, befores and afters. 11, 10, we're putting a lot of faith in this assessment, aren't we? As we always do. Darla, you were saying some cool stuff back there about, some of these don't change. You were looking at differences, I believe, at some point. I heard some really, really cool stuff back there. These aren't changing. But on average, how are they changing? We're not looking at individual data points. We can't believe people like the head of Philip Morris when he says, I've been smoking for 30 years, smoking great for you. One data point. Not talking about averages, talking about one data point, who could be an outlier. So, heard here first. So now the question, go so tight. Before we do L3, let me just ask you guys something. If we believe this, if we believe attitudes have improved, which of the two lists should contain bigger numbers? L2. If they take the program and their attitudes improve, these should be bigger than their corresponding parts over here on average. So let me ask you a question. If we did L2 minus L1, what kind of numbers will we get over here on average? Positive, and you'd pick that sign. If you did L1 minus L2, what kind of numbers would you get on average? And you'd pick that sign. So it depends on whatever you want to do. You guys tell me. What are we doing? L2 minus L1. We're going to pick positive. Beautiful. Here we go. There. Done. It doesn't matter. You get the exact same result and the same conclusion. You just got to keep track of which way you're subtracting. That's all you have to keep track of. Cool? That makes sense? Yep. Good. This I know is the hardest move for any of us to do on this exam. It's just hard to keep track of what you're subtracting. But just stop at this point before you do L3 and ask yourself that. What is he asking me to see? Is he asking me to see an improvement or a decrease in time or something? And then just ask yourself, which of these two is bigger and what's going to happen when I subtract them? And then you'll know what sign to pick. So you guys told me to do L2 minus, gotta go up here. L2 minus L1, right? There, boom, there's all our differences right there. And the positive ones imply an improvement. 6, 17, 6 bigger than 11. 6, 14, 6 bigger than 8. Negative 1, 9's 1 smaller than 10. Looks to me like they're mostly positive. Right? They're mostly positive, which leads me to believe that we're gonna get a small p-value because they did improve. I don't know that though. My gut is often wrong, as I mentioned in the take-home final. Sometimes it's just guess. So I had 2 apples recently, you know. So let's test it. Stat test. T-test. You got data. This is how it's going to look on your exam. So just put it in there now and leave it in there until next Wednesday because you're not going to change it. This is the only, well, you might change it if you do practice homework. No, wrong, you won't, because it'll always be this way. You're only doing matched pairs on this exam. So it's always going to look like this. You're testing against the mu of 0, you're testing L3, and you're testing with a frequency of 1. The only thing that might change is this sign, depending, but we're going to change
Can we
it.
just pause for just a second?
Yeah.
I can't seem to get the minus L1, L2.
On top of L3.
Up
You have to have your blinker on top of L3. Yeah, that's just another, the opposite of Excel.
Thank you.
Frustrating.
Okay. Now I
Frustrating.
have it.
Yes,
Okay.
you do. Yes,
Okay.
you do. Anybody catch that? What Christina just said? When you are in the editor doing the L2 minus
I kept
L1,
getting an
you've
error.
got to put your blinker on top of L3. Otherwise, it keeps giving you an error data type. Why? Because TI is full of bugs, and that's just one more of the bugs.
And we did L1 minus L.
We did L2 minus L1.
Oh, shit.
We did.
Because mu in our hypothesis is actually also, right?
No. Mu is the average is the difference between the two lists.
Yeah.
We're trying to see the average change from before to after. And
we're
both those lists make up that data.
And we're hoping to see a.
Yep. Let's see if we do. Everybody good?
We're just on a t-test.
Yeah, it's just a t-test. Yep, should be 0, because 0 means no difference. So boom, here we go. If there's any area, it's going to be over there. Not much. Not much. We're 4.2 standard deviations out. Holy crap. There's your 3 points. T equals 4.2. 3 more points. P equals 0. Or P equals 0.0004. Or P is less than 5%. Something that implies that. Conclusion? Gary? That is perfectly said. When I say I want a clear, concise, correct, contextual conclusion, I don't need 5 paragraphs. Carrie, say that again. It was perfect.
It does appear that attending the program will improve their attitudes.
Boom! In one sentence of roughly a dozen words, we got 4 points. It does appear that attending the program improves their attitudes. Boom! In that one sentence, we clearly and contextually support that hypothesis. Perfect. Perfect. Fair enough? That believable? Excellent. Check. 10 more points in the bag. Fair? Good. Any questions before we move on? We got them all answered? All the questions answered? You're careful. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.